welcome to Tricks of the Straight channel. Today is the 27th of July 2018. On today's video, I have a couple of things that we want to talk about. The first thing that we want to talk about is what's called the Papal Bull. A lot of people have heard that before, but they don't understand what a Papal Bull means. And I also would like to feature a couple of people on today's video. So let me move you over to who we're going to be featuring today. We're going to be taking a look at Joshua Kushner. Joshua Kushner happens to be a brother of Jared Kushner, I believe, who's married to one of the daughters of Donald Trump. And Joshua Kushner is actually, I think he's either engaged or is about to get married to a lady that's called Kylie Kloss, I believe. She's a supermodel. And we're going to be taking a look at Joshua Kushner. We're also going to be taking a look at a guy called by the name of Derek Blasberg. Derek Blasberg happens to be, I think, a presenter with CNN International Style. And we're also going to be taking a look at another very important person here who happens to be Evan Spiegel. Evan Spiegel, if that's the way the name's pronounced, or Evan Spiegel, happens to be one of the co-founders of Snapchat. So those are the three people that we're gonna be taking a look at today. But let's go over a little bit of history with Joshua Kushner's official stats. You can get in your search engine and type out Joshua Kushner, or you could pause the video and copy this out if it's necessary, and read through with me and see what it's all about, who Joshua Kushner is. It says here Joshua Kushner, born June 12, 1985. You can see the Vatican Code of Numbers is right there. And for those who are interested in the Vatican Code of Numbers, you can get on Tricks of the Straight and look for the playlist called Vatican Code of Numbers, or look for the Lisa Lopez video. And for most up-to-date details, then get our book. It says here Joshua Kushner is an American businessman and investor. He's the founder and managing partner of the investment firm Thrive Capital, co-founder of Oscar Health, and the son of real estate magnate Charles Kushner. His brother is Jared Kushner, the son-in-law and senior advisor to U.S. President Donald Trump. It says here Kushner grew up in a Jewish family in Livingston, New Jersey. He graduated from Harvard College. For those who believe that Jews run the world, and this feeds into that information, right? That is fake information, because if you look through everything, you'll find out that it is the Vatican that actually runs the world, as we keep on making you guys to see on every video. He says he graduated from the Harvard College in 2008, Harvard Business School in 2011 at Harvard University. According to journalist Daniel Goldin, the price of admission, Kushner was admitted to Harvard despite a modest academic record after the father had made a $2.5 million donation to the university, which the chair of his high school science department noted that Kushner was a hard worker despite not being an academic star. And that's a little bit of information that we have there for Joshua Kushner. Now, one of the things that you would notice, let me see if I can go through this information right here and see if I can find that for you. But if I can't find it for you, you can actually get on your search engine and find out where Thrive Capital is in Manhattan, New York. For it has a very strange address. I think the address would start with like a 666 or 623 or something like that. But all that is code to, make a lot of people look away from the people whom the Bible has always told us that would be the inventors of the man's number, or what they call the identification number, that's going to be used on most world systems as we get into the ages before, Yehoshua shows up. So you can look all that up on the internet and see that. So let's get into read a little bit more stuff about the next person that we're going to be taking a look at. That's Derek Blasberg. It says Derek Charles Blasberg, born April 22nd, 1982. He's an American journalist and author who works extensively in the fashion industry since 2016. Has been the host of CNN International Scene and Style. He also hosted Vanity Fair magazine's web series called A Man in the Streets. He has written 3 books, Vatican Code of Numbers, 3 books. All right. It says early life and education. Blasberg was born in St. Louis, Missouri, to Bill Blasberg, who worked as a controller, and Harold Blasberg, the managing director of Medical Journal. In 2000, Blasberg graduated from Afton High School, where he was salutatorian of his class. In 2003, he graduated from New York University with honors with a dual bachelor's degrees in dramatic literature journalism. During college, Blasberg had a job at the Papal agency in lead model management, worked in the public relations department of David Yeoman, and also had a part-time position with W Magazine. So that's all we have for Derek Blasberg over there. The next person we're going to look into today, as we showed earlier, would be Evan Spiegel. And reading through his official stats, he says Evan Thomas Spiegel, born June 4, 1990, a Vatican Code of Numbers. You guys, you just have to understand The Vatican runs everything that has to do with our lives, and even the social media platforms that you think is free and that is actually a place that you can air your views and be not, and you don't get any censorship, is actually used by the Vatican to control you. So let's keep on reading. He says Ivan Thomas Spiegel, born June 4, 1990, is the co-founder and CEO of the American multinational technology and social media company Snap, which created as Snapchat, which Bobby Murphy and Reggie Brown, while they were students of Stanford University. Now, I have some very special information about the other co-founder of Bobby Murphy that we're going to show you, because while looking through and studying Ivan Spiegel and in studying the history of Snapchat, we found out something very, very interesting. So the face of Snapchat is this guy right here, Ivan Spiegel. So you don't actually see this guy right here called Bobby Murphy, who's the other co-founder. And according to the stories, that Bobby Murphy is always behind the scenes cooking stuff up for Snapchat. So he's always a busy man and that kind of stuff. Now, Bobby Murphy is under no transvestigation today. All right. We don't know if he's male or female, but we're just going to take him for what he says he is, because looking at him, he says he's male, so we'll say that he's male for today. But if it turns out in the future that he's not the gender that he claims, then we're going to come down and make a transvestigation video on him separately. But for today, he's not under any transvestigation. We just want to show you what we guys noted. All right, we noted that with Bobby Murphy hiding behind the scenes, that it seems like Bobby Murphy is actually the handler of Ivan Spiegel. Because if you've watched any of our videos in which we've talked about the guys in the technological business like Bill Gates on Tricks of the S-Trade, and also people like the founder of Facebook and the founders of Oracle and everything, we've shown you that these people were not the gender they claimed. And in the fact would show that if you're not the gender that they claimed, they would be having so much issues with themselves personally that they wouldn't have time to be inventing anything. So if you're not the inventors of of these technological companies that we use every day in our daily lives, but more like the face of it. So that means that the Vatican would be the one behind the scenes creating all these technological advancements that we watch. So with that said, Bobby Murphy doesn't seem to be, I don't think that he has anything to do with Snapchat. He's not a coder, doesn't code anything, doesn't write any code, but it's just maybe just a handler created for Ivan Spiegel, because as we've noticed, these guys, Ivan Spiegel, for example, let me show you guys who Ivan Spiegel is married to. So Ivan Spiegel is married to this lady called Miranda Kerr, and Miranda Kerr is an Australian model. She models for Victoria's Secret's Angels. And Joshua Kushner is, let me actually pull up the picture of who Joshua Kushner is going to be married to. So, and Joshua Kushner is going to be married to Carly Kloss, all right? So both Carly Kloss and Miranda Kerr are supermodels, all right? They're supermodels, and Carly Kloss also she also models for Victoria's Secret, a lady line underwear, which is very, very popular. So the thing that you have to note amongst these two people is that this means, like we've always told you, that everybody that you see on TV, that everybody that happens to be influencing your world in one way, shape, or form, that these people are all constructed by the Vatican. They're not just regular people who happen to be, through providence and hard work and meeting the right people, went up the ladders of life and are there as the stories that we've been told to make you guys believe in all these people, people who influence in your world. These people's lives are constructed. So that means that since their lives are constructed, that means their lives are also constructed, tailor-made to be the spouses and the partners of these people or mutilated personalities which are used to run and control our mindset. So that means Miranda Kerr wouldn't be a model, by accident, and Carly Kloss as well, which are both females. There's no slandering allowed. They're both bona fide females. That means that these two people's lives were constructed solely for the purpose to be married to either of these, personalities that are used to control our world. So those are the people that we're gonna be featuring on today's particular video. And one thing I would like to let a lot of people know is that when we started Tricks of the S Trade, we did make a lot of people to understand that even though that we feature a lot of transgenders on our channel, that the whole idea was not about transgenders. The whole idea was trying to use the transgender to show you that evil in your world is organized, because it's not a coincidence that all these mutilated personalities show up in places of power and places of influence and are running our worlds today. Because you have to take a look at it. If we take a look at the number of percentages of people compared to the world population today who are actually mutilated personalities, it would be such thing as maybe 0.5% of the whole world population. But these people manage to be in places of power, mostly in the Western world, as they're called, or the developed countries, especially in places like the United States and America, which are supposed to be developed countries. So what am I saying? So in a normal sense, if we were to go by the fact that, as we are told by the great albino elites, or white people as they call, that run our world, development would mean to be going away from practices that were found in third world countries. Because if you have to understand, the idea of mutilation started with black people. It started with Africans, all right, which are labeled underdeveloped countries. And those kind of practices are practiced they're not practiced publicly. It's something that the society frowns on so much, especially African nationals, that it's no longer done. But why is it that something that's pagan, that's been practiced by black people over a period of time and thrown away, is now practiced by the so-called developed countries? What does that tell you? That shows you that the word development is not about the great let's say buildings and houses and food and lifestyle, but development is about your mind. It's about your mind. It's about your mind, what you choose to practice as development or not. So it's so sad, because like I've said before, when you look at the percentages of the population of the world that's mutilated, it's so small. But these people happen to be in places of power. So that means there is an organization behind it, putting people, these mutilated personalities, in places of power, because it's not a coincidence. You just have to figure that out and think for a second. It's not a coincidence, because as normal people, it takes a great deal of hard work, to get to the point of life where you want to be. But these people just happen to be in there like, it's a cakewalk. It doesn't mean anything. So that shows you that there's an organization practicing and putting these people in place. So you have to understand that. So getting back to what I was saying, that Tricks of the S Trade channel was about showing you that this evil is actually real and is being perpetuated upon us. And from getting you to see that evil, we try to make you see the bigger picture of what's going on in the world. And Tricks of the S Trade was, for the general public. We wanted people to, to bring that awareness in, so they can understand that there is something going on that is beyond, human knowledge, and that is going on in our lives, so people can really understand what's going on. And so from then on, that's why I think we've said before that on Tricks of the S Trade, that we may not be uploading any videos over there, because we think our work on Tricks of the S Trade is done. If it's done, if we're going to be uploading any video, it's going to be just maybe an ad, just to let people know the website that's under construction when it's ready and everything else. But on Tricks of the S Trade here, we are only focusing on those who understand the bigger picture. And for those who have our book, The Concealed Mystery, because we don't want to wasting energy, talking to everybody. So on this particular channel, Tricks of the S Trade, we are much more focused on those who understand the whole picture and who have the book, The Concealed Mystery, in their hands. Because, like we've said before, the videos that we make is 5% of the truth, because there are so many things we couldn't say through these videos. There is so much we couldn't say. So the videos are just 5% of the whole truth. And so if you're on Tricks of the S Trade 2, we expect that you want the whole truth. That means you do have the whole book. You're not just here leaving comments about transgenders and asking about mutilated personalities who do not make any difference in your life, because even though they are there, they are not affecting your life in any way, shape, or form, because the decisions that they make is not coming from them. It's coming from somebody else, another entity, which happens to be the Vatican. So if you're on Tricks of the S Trade 2, we expect that you want the whole truth, and you're not just here just for shock value or for entertainment purposes. So if you find out on Tricks of the S Trade 2 that you leave your comments, that you can leave comments on Tricks of the S Trade 2, it will be one of two reasons. One, you haven't purchased the book, The Concealed Mystery, so that you know the whole truth, so that we can focus on answering those comments and your emails, specifically because you understand the way things are and the direction that the world is going. Because like I've said before, that's all in the book. You haven't known anything on Tricks of the S Trade if you haven't gotten the book. That's just pure fact. So we only concentrate our answers and our energy in responding to people who have the book. We can't be answering emails and comments to everybody. We want to focus on those who want the truth and know the truth, because the truth is not for everybody. If it was for everybody, everybody would accept and know it. Because even though as much as we're on Tricks of the S Trade explaining events and what's happening in the world to a lot of people, people are still under a delusion. A lot of people are still under a delusion, and they don't want to accept it. So truth is not for everybody. So a lot of people might think of us of the fact that maybe we're trying to sell a book, or we are hoarding information and that kind of stuff. But it's none of that. You have to understand that it takes time to make the videos. It takes time to respond to the emails. We can't respond to every single email and every comment, because some people will ask questions here and there, so many general questions, and answering this question, the time it takes to respond to the email and the comments is very, very consuming. There is only a very few of us. And in most cases, sometimes it's just me sometimes just responding, because the team members are all working on several different things. We're not just all, responding to comments and emails. So if you're really interested in the truth, then get the book. It answers all your questions. Every question that you would ever think of, it does answer, and it gives you a clear, concise understanding of history right from the time of the creation of the world up till now. So you always have this knowledge in your hands. If you ever have questions, you can always refer yourself to the book. Instead of leaving a comment and asking us questions, you can always refer yourself to the book. So that's what we are doing, and we want you to get the book, because there's nothing like it. That's just the truth. We're saying this with all humility. When you read it, you'll understand why. So that's just the way it is. So on Tricks of the S Trade 2 is not for anybody that's delusional. It's not for anybody who hasn't gotten their book in their hands. If you're here just watching the videos, you're wasting our time. If you're just watching the videos, watch it. But if you're asking questions and answers, and you want to get answers, get the book. Okay? So with that, let's move on and talk about some few other things. So there's something I just I wanted to make you guys to understand about papal bulls. Is something very, very evil in papal bulls. First of all, let's make you understand what a papal bull is. I'm not going to give you any links to the websites that I'm going to be reading from, especially because there is something very, very sinister about papal bulls and the use of papal bulls that which has gone on throughout in history. And one thing I would like to explain is that since it's so sinister, I don't want any delusional people here who might think that they might have some sort of power by putting in practice what I'm going to read. So there's a disclaimer here. I'm not reading any of this to make you guys get into the act of doing this evil. I'm just letting you know how evil has been, what evil practices as, or how these people do the things they do, so you can understand it. It's also in the Bible. What I'm going to read is also in the Bible, and is it was something that um, people will say it was something that was asked of Abraham. That's the right way I can put it. Abraham in the Bible, but Abraham did not go through it because it was something that was much more prevalent in the times of Abraham, in the times of Black history, which is directly related to the papal bull and how papal bulls are made, which I'm going to read to you guys today. So let's start reading here. It says so what I'm starting to read here is about how a papal bull is made. All right. So what a papal bull is. So let's get into it and read it. Like I said, I won't show you the links of this website because I don't think you guys should be looking into it. So it says here, like all Vatican documents, this papal bull is referred to by the incipit. Okay, the first words of the official Latin text in English, the title is the first of mercy. So what you're saying is that the bull, what the bull talks about is translated in the first few words that you see on top of a papal bull, which is supposed to be a parchment paper or paper. All right. So that's what I want you to understand. So it's more like if you send me an email and you title the email, let's say something like, is the world flat? So that means the title of the email means, is the world flat? So that's what he's trying to explain in what a papal bull is. That the first few letters that you see on any papal bull describes what the papal bull is addressing or what sort of order it's making. So let's read. He says, like all Vatican documents, this papal bull is referred to by the incipit, the first words of the official Latin text. In English, the title is the first of mercy. So he's using an example of a papal bull called the face of mercy, which the Pope would have signed. So let's keep on reading. It said, so, but what is a papal bull? How does it differ from other papal documents? All right. A papal bull is a Pope's official formal decree establishing a religious order, clarifying a doctrine, ratifying other documents, founding a university, convoking a general council, declaring a jubilee, or making a similar statement. The term bull refers to the lead seal, bulla, that was attached to the document to authenticate it. The seal depicts the apostles St. Peter and St. Paul, which is all lies. There's no St. Peter and St. Paul in any papal bull because these are all, demonic agents that, lies that the Vatican uses to tell us that this decree is made in the name of saints, because God never made any saint, all right? And according to the Bible, they never made the saints. According to the Bible, were the people, the patriarchs such as Abraham, Moses, Noah, and the rest. Those people were classified as saints. So when you read your Bible in the book of Revelation and you hear those words saints, it's referring to everybody that died believing in Yehoshua before Yehoshua came, all right, to this world and was killed, and then he resurrected, and he also resurrected all those people who died who were in Abraham's bosom, which was a part in hell, all right, who lived there until Yehoshua came. People like Lazarus, which you've read about in the Bible, Lazarus and the rich man. For more of that, please get a book. We don't have time to explain all this. We're not just telling you. When I say get a book and I tell you stories, I'm just not trying to make you go get the book, because I can't say so much things on the videos. Even if I were to start talking about stuff from here till maybe the next couple of years on the same issue, I won't be able to finish it, because my memory is limited when I'm making a video, or when we're making a video. But with the book, when you have a book, the only limit you have is how much paper. So you can write and write and write. Okay, so I want people to understand it, because a lot of people think maybe I'm trying to or hoard information, or I'm trying to not answer their questions so that they can go get the book. You're not doing me any favor when you don't get the book. That's what you don't have to understand. You think maybe you're doing me a favor. We are trying to put real information in your hands, because there's so much we can't talk about. My memory is limited when making a video. But with the book, I lay it out all out there. In the book, we do that. We lay it all out inside the book for you. Not just me, but everybody who put their hands together to write it. Okay? So, getting back to what I was saying, that the saints is referring to everybody who died believing in Yehoshua before Yehoshua came and went to hell and resurrected and took them all out. And if you remember, I don't know if I can point to the portion of that Bible that talks about the saints resurrecting and going out in the streets and people seeing them before, after Yehoshua resurrected. Let me see if I can find that Bible passage. So I'm going to be reading from Matthew chapter number 27. I'm reading from the Geneva Bible, and I'm reading from verse number 51. It says, "And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the stones were cloven, and the graves did open themselves, and many bodies of the saints." So I want you to understand that when you ever hear that word saint, it's talking about only those, all right, who were resurrected, all right, before, or who were resurrected after, rather, when Yehoshua died. Okay? So, Peter, the Apostle Peter, and the Apostle Paul did not resurrect. They were still alive when Yehoshua died. So, they are not saints. So, I want you guys to understand that word saint here very, very well. The saints are the only people who died, all right, before Yehoshua came. When Yehoshua came and died, those people resurrected with him, all right? So that's what the Bible is referring here to in Matthew chapter number 27. So whenever you hear the word saints now being used, someone is being given a sainthood or being deified by the Vatican or the Roman Catholic Church, I want you to understand they are making you to worship a demon who's been now given a name as one person in the Bible, because the only people that were saints were the only ones who died before Yehoshua came. All right. For more of that information, please get a book. Let me just continue reading and finishing this verse so that you guys can see clearly that the word sent here is used to those who were resurrected when Yehoshua died and went to hell. All right. So I continue reading. It says, "And the graves did open themselves, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection." You see that? "And went into the holy city and appeared unto many." So the people who went into the city and appeared unto many, right, were the saints of old, which were Abraham, Yitzchak, Jacob, all right, and there's so many believers, all the great prophets and prophetesses who died believing in YHWH, right, the Yahweh, the Yud-He-Vah-He of the Bible, who died believing in him, which God had gave them a promise that they would live again. And that promise was fulfilled when Yehoshua came and went to hell, and they all resurrected with them. And all those people were black with woolly hair, and none of them were white, had any pale or albinic skin. None of them, as is being preached in the media throughout everything that we see, that the Vatican presents to us, that the saints of old, including God, all had a pale skin and straight hair. None of them had that. So I just want you guys to get this truth so you understand when it's talking about saints, it's talking about those who resurrected when Yehoshua died, right? After that, Anybody else who died believing is not regarded as one. Where the Vatican just makes up stories to tell you that. So let's keep on reading, and let's get back into what I was trying to say about the papal bull, and go on to show you some other stuff. So another thing about the saints that you have to understand is that the saints are part of the so-called, not the so-called, but the 144,000 that you read about in the book of Revelations. Okay, and and that's about it. They're part of that 144,000. So if anybody tells you that tells you some weird stories about the 144,000 people, you shouldn't just believe them. They're just the people, the saints, like I've explained and showed you earlier here, who resurrected when Yehoshua died. All the people who died before Yehoshua came, and that's about it. So getting back to this, we're gonna, like I said before, we're gonna make a very special video because there's something so deep I can't even begin to say it. Just saying it just makes me quiver. All right, that we have to share with you guys, and those who have the book already have that information. All right, so that's why we suggest that you get the book, but we'll expound much more on that information in the videos, because the video is going to be the most mind-blowing video that we've ever made on Tricks of the Astray. And since it's going to be a very special video, it's going to be free for those who have the book. So if you have the book, we'll send you an email and give you login information to that website. If you don't have the book, you will have to pay. That's just the truth. You will have to pay to watch that video, because it contains very sensitive information. So if we're going to get into trouble for making that video, we want to make sure that we're getting into trouble right for making that video. So that's what's going to happen, and sooner or later we'll start putting up an ad about it, because it's going to be we've never made any video until you watch that one. That's just the truth. So stay tuned and watch out for it. So continuing on, let's talk about this papal bull thing. And it says here, where did we stop? It says okay, we stopped where we're trying to show you that when they say the seal depicts the apostles Paul, St. Peter, and St. Paul as saints, that the apostle Paul and apostle Peter are not saints at all, because according to the Bible, the saints were the people who resurrected when Yehoshua died. That means the people who lived and died believing in Yehoshua. People who lived and died, sorry to say, the people who lived and died before Yehoshua came. That's the best explanation for the people who are saints. So Paul and Peter only died after Yehoshua had left, not before. Okay, so that doesn't make them any sense. So let's keep on reading. It says the seal depicts the apostles St. Peter and St. Paul with the name of Pope signing it, emphasizing the authority of the pontiff. Pope signs this document as Episcopus Servus Servorum Dei, Bishop Servant of the Servants of God. Now, in that special video, we're going to make you understand that this word God here is arbitrary. That special video we're going to make. So, for example, maybe you guys watch a lot of TV and you watch maybe so many of this, let's say, award shows, maybe stuff like the Oscar, the Grammys, and you see a lot of these musicians stand up and say they want to thank God, and want to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and all that kind of stuff. There's this guy who recently made a comment that people should get back to God. Let me see if I can pull out his name. He's one of the guys who was in the movie called Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me find out his name correctly. So the movie I was talking about was called Guardians of the Galaxy, and the actor's name was Chris Pratt. So in that particular, I think it was a show, Chris Pratt here was saying a lot of things and preaching the name Jesus Christ to a lot of people, and saying that people should believe in Jesus Christ and they should take God seriously. So you find out that in most of the award shows, and the people who are proclaiming God and Jesus Christ, you find out that the way these people act and the things they do, all right, do not even show like they do really believe in the person they call Jesus Christ. And people, you have to understand this. The person called Jesus Christ is a fictional character. Why is it fictional? Because because the name Jesus did not come into this world until 500 years ago. And what happened 500 years ago? What happened 500 years ago is the fact that the great grandsons of Genghis Khan, who ruled the world, took over the Vatican, and they changed the letters of the word, okay, in which the Bible was written, which was Jesus with an I, to Jesus with a J. The current albino Vatican, the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan and his generals, introduced the letter J and changed the identity, which was already not a correct identity in the name Jesus, because it should have been Yeshua or Yehoshua in full, to Jesus. So Jesus Christ is a fabrication. So when anybody preaches to you and says they're talking about, they want you to believe God, and they say Jesus Christ, you should know that they are speaking to you about a devil. That's just truth, which you have to understand. Because in the first place, the translation was even Jesus. It was Jesus. Then the current albino introduced the letter J and changed so many names of the people of the Bible, so that we are now talking about people with different identities, but we think that we're talking about the same person. So when anybody talks to you and tries to convince you, and say the name, God, and such names as Jesus, do not fall for that trap. Jesus Christ is not real. The person that is real is Yeshua or Yehoshua. So let me make you understand this very, very clearly, so you guys can have a very correct understanding. Let's say, for example, that your name is Tony. Let's say your name is Tony, okay? And someone calls you Boney. You are not going to respond because your name is not Boney. Your name is Tony. By the sudden change in one letter of your name, it has changed the identity of who you are. Let me give you an example. A name is an address and an identification. Right? What does that mean? Let me give you a very simple example. Let's say your name is Tony. All right? And Tony lives in Austin, Texas. He lives in a street called Sacramento, Texas. So when you say you're looking for Tony, you're looking for Tony that lives in Austin, Texas, and lives on so-so street or so-so number of a street called Sacramento. All right? Now let's say, for example, that the street name where Tony lives is called Sacramento Street. All right? And you change the word Sacramento to Acramento Street. And you say you're looking for Tony. If you send a mailman, all right, and say the Tony that you're looking for lives in Acramento instead of Sacramento, when the mailman goes down there, that later is going to come back unreturned because the mailman could not find Acramento Street. So what does that tell you? A name is an address and a location. A name addresses you and locates you at where you are. So if you have the right name, if you have the wrong name rather, you have the wrong address. You have the wrong location. That means you have the wrong identity of that person cannot be identified. Here is a very, you know, strenuous truth that you have to understand, that as long as you're praying and believing in the name of Jesus Christ, you're believing in the name of a wrong God. You're believing in Satan. The name is not Jesus. Because if someone called you by a different name that wasn't yours, you are not going to answer because the person cannot identify you. A name is an identity. If you get the wrong name, you have the wrong identity of the person. So let's keep on reading. So I don't want you guys to get confused when you hear the name God, because a lot of people, when immediately they hear their name, that name God or Jesus Christ, they drop all their gods and think that they're on the same page with the person who's talking to them. So the Vatican deliberately puts up these people in award shows, all right, to call on the name of God to confuse you. Because as much as a lot of people don't want to believe that everything in this life is about YHWH, all right? The Vatican, who know about it, use that to confuse you, to put you in the wrong mode and the wrong place, to think that they are talking about the same God that you think that you know. So they can move you from the camp of YHWH to the camp of the fake God and the devil himself, who is Jesus Christ. And those who go to churches are worshiping a demon. That's just fact. They're worshiping Satan. Because all churches, according to the Bible, are the synagogue of Satan. For you to understand all that, because like I said, we can't say so much on these videos because we can't talk about it. Get the book and understand that, so you come out of it, because that's what the Bible says in the book of Revelation every time. Come out of her. What is he talking about? Come out of the synagogue of Satan, which are churches. The synagogue of Satans are not any apostate religion there. It doesn't matter if it's Buddhism or Islam or any of those other pagan religions, because those other ones were already considered to be what? They were already considered to be infidels. But the synagogue was always considered to be the place where believers, the black woolly haired Hebrews, gathered when they weren't close to their temple, to talk about things and how they should go about things in the worship of Yahweh, because they could not worship him in the temple because they were in exile. All right? So the synagogue was always attributed to believers. All right? So that's why the Bible calls it the synagogue of Satan, because now it's no longer believers, it's no longer people going in the name of Yahweh, but they are going in the name of a different God, and that God is Jesus Christ. It's Satan himself. That's why the Bible says that Satan has transformed himself into an angel of light, and so are his ministers. Understand concealed mystery. It's not for everybody. Go get the book and understand all this, so you do not get led down a road into lies and into deception. So let's get back to what I was trying to show you about the papal bull here, and let me show you how the papal bull was made. So I'm going to read some very disturbing things here, and like I said, I don't want anybody who's deluded to try to go practice, because there's a lot of people who are actually insane and are on this channel. All right, like I've said before, this channel is only dedicated to people who want the whole truth and want to know the whole truth. So we are not reading any of this for you to go and practice this and kill any children and do anything that's wrong against children because you want some wealth and some power. But this is what is practiced very, very much in our world today. You've probably heard of human sacrifices. that you know, you probably heard of such things as maybe the Illuminati and some celebrities maybe sacrificing their children or family members for fame and wealth. This is very, very true, as we're going to read on this particular website. So I want you to pay attention to how the papal bull was made from the times, because like I've told you before, this was practices that's practiced very, very much in our world. It started with the black people generally, you know, on the African continent, and black people all around the world practice this because this was something that was passed on from generation to generation, the art of sacrificing human beings. So let's read into this. It says here the claim that papal bulls are named after the bulla of ancient Roman documents is a complete absurdity. They are dedications to the Dark Lord of Satan, or let me read it again. They are dedications to the Dark Lord or Baal Satan, to whom the Roman cult dedicate their works in secret. Now let's keep on reading here. It says, the use of human skin is a fundamental prerequisite for a papal bull to have power, as this is a concept of necromancy inherited through the Rabbi of Venice. So what does this mean? Papal bulls were constructed with human skin, and constructed with not just regular human skin, but with the skin of children. Okay, let's keep on reading this. It says, the successors of the Sarmatians themselves, the successors of the Scythians and Tarsus, the successors of Mari and the Amaru, the city founded itself from exiles of Ur. Remember, Ur is in the Bible. If you remember, Abraham was from the land called Ur, all right, or Uz of the Chaldees, right? And you remember that Abraham, at one point in time, was asked to sacrifice his son, all right, Yitzhak. Now, that was a form, that was a practice that was practiced very much in the times of Abraham. Okay? And after that, Abraham and YHWH asked Abraham not to go through with it. To understand the story, because there's something very much hidden in that story that's very, very confusing. Like I've said before, we're going to be making a very special video, is the video of videos, and all that information we put in the book, but we're going to explain it, we're going to expound more on it on that particular video. For those who have the book, if you're already going to have a straight view of that video, for others, you're going to have to pay for it, because the video contains a lot of sensitive information. It's going to be the most sensitive video that we've ever made. So you guys should stay tuned and watch out for it if you're interested. But get the book and you get all that information. So let's keep on reading. So the Latin word velum, from velus, means not only a fleece or hide, but also human skin, indicating that at the Roman times the meaning of this form of writing material was still known. Let me see if I can blow this up so you guys can see clearly what I'm reading. Let's keep on reading down here. It says, where did I stop? Where did I stop? Where did I stop, actually? Let me see where I stop. Okay, let me actually read this over again, because I want to start with the background so people can get a firm understanding of what I'm reading. It says, a papal bull is a formal document issued by a Roman cult pontiff upon a major act of law, cause, or claim to extend the power of the cult over its claimed domination of the world, all nations, all people, all law, and all religions. All legitimate papal bulls were issued on human skin, usually the skin of a sacrificed child or some famous heretic. Forgeries are on calf skin or some other lesser medium. So this makes you understand why pedophilia is so much practiced in the world today by people of high authority, because they are using children, which is considered the highest form of necromancy. That means the highest form of worshiping the devil in sacrifice. So that's why you see a lot of these transgenders whatsoever on TV. For more of that information, please get up. I don't have time to get into all this. So let's keep on reading. It says, where did I stop before that? let me see. Okay, so I stopped right here. I was saying that the use of human skin is a fundamental prerequisite for papal bull to have power, as this is a concept of necromancy inherited through the Rabbi of Venice, the successors of the Sarmatians, themselves the successors of the Scythians, and Tarsus the successors of Mari and Amaru, the city founded itself from exiles of Ur. Okay, now the Latin word velum for vellus means not only a fleece or hide, but also human skin, indicating that at the Roman times, the meaning of this form of writing material was still known. Let's keep on reading. It says, in fact, it was the Roman cult itself through the formation of the college of abbreviators that created the word parchment to describe the fundamental form for legitimate papal bulls. Parchment meaning parka, one of the three fates, the fate of death, H equals to the letter of binding, and ment equals to mens equals mind, though thought, intention, intellect, or in other words, mind, soul bound to the fate of death. So what is it saying here? It says that the word parchment, all right, that parch means one of the three fates of life, all right? The fate of death is one of the fates of life, all right? The fate of binding someone, all right, is a fate of life. And your mind or your soul, all right, is a fate of life. So there are, I'm not sure what it's saying, that there are three fates in life. You're either alive, all right, or you're dead, or you're bound. Okay? So in order to make a papal bull to be binding, you have to use human skin, because human skin will go through three stages. It's either alive, it's dead, and it's bounding, because human skin is bound to human life. Does it make sense? So that's what it means. So now there's one thing I have to make you guys to note right here, because when we read this, something came to mind. Now remember, the word parchment is made of two words, parch and ment. And according to this description here, it says that parch, or the part that's called parchment of the word parchment here, has one of the three fates: the fate of death, H equals to letter of binding, and ment means equals to mind, thought, intention, intellect, or in other words, mind, soul bound to the fate of death. So ment here, from the word parchment, means mind. So what does that tell you? What does that bring in memory to you? It brings into memory two or one word that's very, very popular, that is being used to run a world. And what is that word? Government. So government means govern the mind. So that's why everything around you, like we've always told you, is meant to control your mind. So government is in a position to control your mind. They're not in a position to do any good to you. So that means the laws that they make and pass every day all around the world is not for any good, but it's rather to control your mind, because government means govern the mind. And let me show you that so you guys can firmly understand that. So we're breaking down the word government right here, okay? Now, the first meaning of the word government, the two words that make up the word government, is from govern and ment, all right? The first part, govern, is from Middle English, from Old French, from governor, from Latin gouverner, to steer, to rule, to steer. What does it mean to steer? If you drive a car, you have a steering wheel. So when you steer the steering wheel, what does that mean? You're controlling where the car goes. All right? To steer means to control. To control something. When you steer a ship, you control the ship. So govern here is from the Latin word guberne, which means to steer something, to control something. Now, the next word that is in government is ment. What does ment mean? Let me pull that up so you guys can see. Now, ment, let me show you, scroll through here. Ment, right here, you can see the word right here, ment, right? Ment means the mind. Don't worry about the spirit, because the spirit is something else. Ment means the mind, as you can see right here. So when you say government, it means to steer, control the mind. So government is not for any good. It's to control your mind, because without the ability to control someone's mind, you can't control their bodies. You can't control their soul. You can't control their spirit. So every government of this world is there to control your mind. And whose mind do you think they are controlling you for? Is the mind of the devil, the mind of Satan, because the Vatican runs all governments and they work for the devil. So let's get back to what we were reading in trying to make you understand what it means, or what the papal bull meant. So we stopped. He said, official papal method for creating vellum parchment for bulls. It says the awful ritual of murdering children for using their skin for papal bulls and other spells was first outlined in the Grimoire of Pope Honorius III at the beginning of the 13th century. All right. So what does that tell you? Now remember, we've always told you that the history, okay, that the history of the 13th century of Europe, of the Vatican in Europe, okay, came from the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan, who after going through Asia and going through Egypt and Libya went into Europe. And from wherever they went, they killed black people, they bred them out, and took over the power and control structures of Europe. Because if you look at the what they call the what's it called again? The what's the Silk Road? The Silk Road travels all the way from Asia into Europe and stops right in Italy, the Vatican. So that means when Genghis Khan and his generals were going through and changing the caste system, which had made people of albanic skin, all right, not to be in places of power, because biologically people with albanic skin are weaker than people who have woolly hair biologically, which is true. When they were going through Asia and freeing every person who was under any black woolly haired lord in Asia, and they went all the way through, they landed in the Vatican, and they took over the Vatican, and they took over those black monarchs and had them subservient to them, and they taught them all the ways of necromancy which they practiced. And from the 13th century, these guys made the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan now organize, put the practice into a perfect organization of murdering and killing young children, something that the black woolly-haired people were already doing. But they organized it in such a way that it far surpassed whatsoever this black woolly-haired, leftover people, or let's say black woolly-haired people of the Roman Empire. So that's what happened. So that's why it's telling you that it happened here in the 13th century. So more of that. Let me just point you guys to the Silk Road, so you guys see how the Silk Road travels. So it doesn't just look like I'm just talking, okay? So let's show you how the Silk Road travels. You could pause the video at any point in time. Copy out this link. It says Chinese name. Name is Sishou Zilu. English translation Silk Road. Now it says length is 4,350 miles, but we don't care all about that. We just want to show you how the Silk Road travels. So you can see location here is in Asia. And let me pull up a map so you guys can see that very well. So the Silk Road starts right around here in Asia. Now, all these other roads that you see down here are just linkages from the main road, because the main road travels through this area from Xi'an all the way up here, across, and all the way down to Rome. So it ends in Rome. So you see that, right? It ends right here in Rome. This is the main Silk Road that travels through this area right here, all the way down here, Petra, all the way down. This is the main Silk Road, all the way down onto Asia, Xi'an right here. So let's read up on the travel route. It says here, the 2nd century BC to the 1st century AD, location from Asia to Europe, passing through China, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Greece, and Italy. So it ends in Italy. So when Genghis Khan and his generals, so I want to see how Satan works, okay? When Genghis Khan and his generals, now first of all, what made Genghis Khan successful? Because a lot of people were going to say, because even though the great grandsons of Genghis Khan who are running this world right now, they don't let you guys know a lot about Genghis Khan. They put that history and hide it. Why do they hide it? Because if you understand Genghis Khan, then all your lies, all your so-called lies of, like, that Europeans like mutated or evolved from dark skin to black, from black skin or dark skin, as they may say it, to pale albanic skin, having such issues of like climate change that made people to become white, pale skin, and such lies as vitamin D deficiency, sunlight issues falls apart, right? So they don't let you know about Genghis Khan, so they can keep up those lies and not tell you the true history of how people who have pale skin, right, and straight hair came into being. Because when you study the history, when you get into the history of Genghis Khan, the whole entire modern history that we are told every day falls into place, and you perfectly understand the reasons for, like, the First World War or the Second World War. All right, you understand the reason for the New World Order. All this is tied to Genghis Khan. So that's why they hide the history of Genghis Khan, because they know once everybody comes into this knowledge, then this whole entire fabrication of what they're doing falls to pieces. Because the reason why we're here in the first place today in the New World Order is because of Genghis Khan. Because before Genghis Khan died, he told his great-grandsons and his generals that he had conquered the whole of Asia, like I've showed you, up to Egypt right here, and down to Europe, and Russia, and because you can see here the whole Silk Road covers that area. He now told them, go and conquer the world. That the one thing that he did not do was conquer the whole world. He gave them that sort of obligatory note that they had to conquer the world. So from then on, when they had gotten into Europe and were killing a lot of black people, and we'll explain the reason later why all that happened, this guy starting to flee is the reason for colonization. So this black dude started, the black Europeans started fleeing all over the world, trying to escape the atmosphere in which the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan had brought in. And let me show you another timeline, because all this I want to show you timeline so you guys understand what I'm saying. So I want you to look at this timeline. Genghis Khan was born in 1162 and died in 1227. So this is the time that Europe started changing from black with woolly hair, all right, to pale skin and straight hair. And you remember the history that we are reading about the papal bulls right here, that it was in the 13th century that the Pope Honorius III, all right, it was said that the awful ritual of murdering children for using their skin for papal bulls and other spells was first outlined in the Grimoire of Pope Honorius III at the beginning of the 13th century. So is it by this time that the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan had taken over control of the Vatican? So they've started putting the practice, right, in which the black woolly-haired Romans were doing into a very organized format that anybody could practice, that they could do it very, very well and get results. So time never lies. So let's get back into the Silk Road history that I was trying to talk about. So as you can see right here, this road all leads to Rome, right? And I was trying to explain that that when Genghis Khan was moving through Asia, all right, and killing a lot of black woolly haired people is the reason why you still find, statues of Buddha having African or West African weaves, because they were all black throughout that entire time in history. It's Genghis Khan who decided to take over and unite a lot of, people that were pale skin and straight hair, which were subservient to their black woolly haired lords, uniting them together to take over their black lords. That's what happened through the whole time of Asia. Now, I was trying to explain something else before that you can see how the devil works right here. What made Genghis Khan so successful was not based on the fact that Genghis Khan, as we are told today, and which we have made to believe that everybody with the, that has straight hair and pale skin has some sort of great mental faculties, and that black people are animals. All right, that's the storyline that we're told every day, and which we've all come to believe. It's not that the albino hordes had some sort of great mental faculties that helped them to win so many wars. What happened against their black people? What happened here was very, very specific. All right, that the devil planned. Now remember the Crusades. The Crusades was fought against Muslims which were controlling the whole, or Arabs as we would say, that were controlling this whole entire area, all right? The area of Saudi Arabia all the way up to India, all right? All this was controlled by Muslims. And the black European lords here were trying to get Jerusalem, all right? They were trying to make Jerusalem their center, because the Vatican, the Black Vatican at the time, wanted to make, which is still something that that's been passed on rather to the current Vatican right here. We're trying to make Jerusalem to be their, headquarters. So the Crusades fought, weakened the Europeans, the Black European militaries, and the Arab militaries that were occupying this whole area up to this point, up to India. Does it make sense? So the whole European, militaries who were all the way up to Russia, the black woolly haired European militaries were all the way up to Russia, and the Arabians, which were controlling this area. Arabians have always been Africans. We're controlling this whole entire area right here, the Horn of Africa, into Saudi Arabia here, down into India, all right? They were controlling this whole entire, we're in a war all for this place. And those wars fought and destroyed their military, so they became weak. So when it became weak, I want you to see how the devil works, okay? He made the black woolly haired Romans, or the black woolly haired Europeans, all the way to Russia, to fight against the Arabs, okay, for Jerusalem. And that war made their armies weak, weakened the population, weakened the economy, and weakened everything. So when this happened, he raised somebody else over here in Genghis Khan and make them to have a straight route through everything, because weak armies can defend themselves against attacks. A weak economy can do that. And they traveled all the way and killed as many black woolly haired people as they can until they got into the Vatican, where the Silk Road ends. So everything here is deliberately planned by Satan himself. And when these guys got in here, the black woolly haired people of Europe and everybody else around this whole entire area started running from their lives. And when they started running for their lives, it gave birth to colonization. And Africa already, which was now weakened, because you have to understand, with every civilization, once the civilization gets weakened, the people also get weakened, right? So by this time, the Ethiopian kingdom, which was ruling Africa at that point in time, was weakened through so many different wars with maybe each and every other ethnicity. So the Africans now, the Arabians, who are still Africans as well, got weakened. And so when these other Europeans now, they started fleeing into many different countries. They started going into places like North America, the Caribbeans, to find solace, South America and Australia to find solace from the fact that Genghis Khan and his generals had taken over Europe and were killing a lot of black people randomly. So they were all running for their lives. So it's those colonization and those shipping routes which traveled from Europe with black woolly haired people to the Americas and South Americas that is today told to us to be the transatlantic slave trade, which never happened. Does it make sense? So that's how the whole history here happened. So it is the reason why the grandsons of Genghis Khan and his generals who live today in the Vatican and running the world implemented such things as the name Jesus, because they were trying to change history into their own making. So they got into the same plan that the devil had always had right from the get-go. Because when these guys came in and saw how these black woolly haired kings lived majestically and how they were to run things, they said, okay, let's do exactly what they did. Let's continue on, because this is what gave them power. Because you have to understand that Satanism is practiced all around the world. And you have demons speaking to all these people. It's speaking to them of the same plan that Satan always had. I hope that's very, very clear. See, I'm talking too much right here. That's why you guys have to get the book. So I shouldn't be talking this much. I'm trying to make you guys understand real history here. So that is what happened. So let's get back to what we were saying before on the papal bulls and parchment bulls, because I was trying to make you guys understand the fact that from that particular point in time, that the 13th century was when the organization of murdering young children was put in such a firm practice and way that made it very, very organized and made it very, very efficient at killing small children. I'm using them from sacrifices. So I was trying to explain all that to show you how that came into being, that the Silk Road ended in Rome, and that in the 13th century, that organization of killing young children, the way it's being practiced today in such an efficient manner, was put together by the albino hordes who came in from Asia and landed all the way in Rome in the Vatican. So let's continue on. So let me continue reading. It says, the awful ritual of murdering children for using their skin for papal bulls and other spells was first outlined in the Grimoire of Pope Honorius III at the beginning of the 13th century, which means that this is one of the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan and Pope Honorius. So, like I've explained before, the whole reason for the Third Temple is because when the albinos and the Asian hordes came into Europe, all right, they wanted to change the system and wanted to use that system to rule the world like Genghis Khan made them promise that they would. But in order to do so, they need to hide themselves from history, because when people understand the history of Genghis Khan and what you're doing, everything else that you're doing falls into place, and people tend to understand that we've been fed lies all through along. So they change a whole lot of history. They introduce they change the speaking of the English language, introduce the letter J, because if you find out the 1560 edition of the Geneva Bible and the 1611 King James Bible have no letter J's in it. Why? Because at that point in time, the black woolly haired kings which survived, right, until they were totally taken over, decided to put in writing the Bible, so people would understand that what the Bible had always talked about is coming to fulfillment, so that people will have a general knowledge that the books of the Bible were actually real and telling us about an enemy. Because these guys now understood that whatsoever they were doing was a grand design and plan that it seems like they had no control over, but something else was running them. So they decided to, let's put this Bible together so everybody else can see this truth. because what's happening to us, we would never dream or imagine that it would. So that's what happened. So they put all this together, and when these guys came in, the great grandsons of Genghis Khan, in trying to use the same method, all right, that the black woolly head Europeans were using to run the world, they tried to create for themselves a savior, because the Bible was not written about anybody who was of pale skin and straight hair, so they had to create one for themselves. Does it make sense? They had to create one for themselves. So they changed the name of Jesus to Jesus. They changed the writings of, the speaking of the English language, confused the names, all right, and wrote themselves into history. And they are now waiting, all right, for their own savior to sit in the temple, according to how Yehoshua was in the temple in Jerusalem during the time that he was. So that's what all this is about. The history of Genghis Khan. So as soon as you understand that every world history falls into place, you understand modern history and the events that are going on. All right. So let's keep on reading this. It says, the same ritual appears as standard procedure in subsequent grimoires of black magic published by the popes, and the introduction to the specifics of the ritual may be viewed in Arthur Edward Waite's book of Ceremonial Magic, page 17. Concerning the victim of the art, take your child, and this is very, very gross of what I'm going to read here. But like I said before, I'm not reading this for anybody to take it upon themselves to do it. YHWH himself will judge you if you ever kill your child for anything, or any family member. I'm not reading this to expose any secrets to anybody. I'm reading this just for informational purposes only. So let me keep on reading. It says, take your child, place it on a block with the throat turned upward, so that it may be easier for you to cut it. Be ready with your knife and cut the throat with a single stroke, pronouncing the name of the spirit whom you wish to invoke. For example, I slay thee in the name and such a name of a spirit. So this is something that was practiced all through history. It was asked of Abraham to do the same thing, which Yehoshua or YHWH told him not to do it. We go into deep detail for you to understand all that in the book and in the video that we're going to make very soon. So I don't want to read too much back into that. So let's keep on reading. It says, in the name, I'll continue reading how this stuff is done and how they slay children and invoke spirits and demons to help them to do whatsoever they want to do. All right. So it says, in the name and to the honor of the spirit that you want, the particular demon, have a care that 2 blows not be needed, but let it die at the first. Then skin with the knife, and while skinning it, make the following invocation: the highest form, succession of forms. So that's how children are slaughtered all around the world daily. And saying that just breaks my heart. And that's just what's happening around the world on a daily basis by the people who are in power. They're slaying children, invoking demons, slaying it in the name of whatsoever demon that they wanted to invoke. Then they use the skin of the child to write some sort of whatever they want to write that's going to bind them, all right, bind them to that demon and spirit. That's for that demon and spirit to help them in whatsoever they want to do. This is how necromancy is practiced. It says, this is what I want you guys to take note, because I started the video by saying that in the developed world, in the Western world, that you find so many transgenders such that it's not even something that's very common in the underdeveloped countries. And that development should mean moving away from such gross crimes and gross what's the best way to put it, such gross crimes, and being more civilized in our minds. But that's not the case. So that's why you can see right here, this particular article says in the Western world, because this is practiced much more in the Western world. When I'm talking about the Western world here, is talking about the countries of Europe, North America, which is considered the Western world. All right, which is actually false. For more of that, you get that all information in our book. It says the highest form of law And literally, the highest form upon which any writing exists is a papal bull based on parchment, being the skin of sacrificed children. In the system devised by the Roman cult, no other document can claim higher standing. This is a key reason why all legitimate bulls were written on the skin of sacrificed innocent children, cursed, sodomized, and then brutally butchered. Because the Roman cult did not publicly permit any documents to be written on parchment from human skin, no other documents could claim the human personality and therefore real spiritual life. This is not just something that's done just only by the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, the popes, and men in power. It's done by every small criminal around you. In most cases, the art of human sacrifice and commanding a deity to attach themselves and bind them to that sacrifice and help them to succeed. So that's why in such places, like maybe if you ever studied the Bible and you heard that the children of Israel went to war, but there was anger because a human being was sacrificed that came upon the children of Israel. And let me show you that in the Bible, so you guys can understand that this is a practice that's been going on for years, right from the inception of time. So here is a story in the Bible to show you that sacrificing children was the highest form of satanism that you could ever practice. So when you hear such stories as that the maybe so-called celebrities families died and whatsoever were given in sacrifices, those stories are real. They are not some sort of games, because this was something that's been practiced throughout all history. So I'm going to read a short story here, and I'm reading from 2 Kings chapter number 3 in the Geneva Bible. And the story is based on the fact that the children of Israel went to war against the children of Moab, and they were winning that war against the children of Moab. But the king of the Moabs took his own son, who should have reigned in his stead, and gave that son for a burnt offering. All right. And when he did that, the children of Israel lost that war. Why? Because Satan came in and helped the Moabites by invoking some sort of demons or whatsoever, so that the children of Israel, who were not doing right, in the sense that they were not worshiping the God of Yahweh like they should, so God left them, because the sacrifice of that Moabite was greater, because the children of Israel were not following after YHWH in the proper way. So they couldn't win that war. And let me read that short story right here. So I'm reading from 2 Kings chapter number 3, Geneva Bible, and I'm reading from verse number 23. And they said, "This is blood, the kings are surely slain, and one had smitten another. Now therefore Moab to the spoil." And when they came to the host of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites. They were winning the war, right? So that they fled before them, but they invaded them and smote Moab. And they destroyed the cities, and on all the good field every man cast his stone and filled them, and they stopped all the fountains of water and felled all the good trees. Only in Kirhaseth left they the stones thereof. Howbeit they went about it with slings and smote it. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, right? Remember, everybody in this particular story, like I've told you before, is black with woolly hair. So, like I said before, everybody in the Bible story was black with woolly hair. So when the sons of Genghis Khan came in, all right, they had to make these stories to be about them, because they were not in it. So that's the reason why they introduced the name Jesus. So Jesus is the name introduced by the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan. So everybody that's calling the name of Jesus is actually calling on the God, Satan himself, because he was never ever in the Bible. The name was Jesus, and even then was still a mistranslation of the name Yehoshua or Yeshua. So does that make sense? So when you see all the symbols and all the media portraying to you people of the Bible to be straight hair and pale skin, is because the sons of Genghis Khan are trying to create a god for themselves that they never had. And that's the reason why they're trying to create a savior for themselves that they never had. That's why they're going to build the third temple for a savior that they never had, because they were never in the book. So when we talk about Yehoshua here being black with woolly hair, we're not trying to sell to you some sort of, black superiority, or making you feel like, that blacks have something. We are showing you the truth so you don't fall for a deception. So understand that. So getting back into the story, um, I'm going to read the story through now for you to see what happened. Like that, the sacrificing of children is the highest form of satanism that can be ever be practiced. So it says, and when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew the sword to break through unto the king of Edom, but they could not. All right. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall, so that Israel was sore aggrieved, and they departed from him and returned to their country. So when the king of Moab here sacrificed his son, elder son here doesn't necessarily mean that the son is old. It just means that it's the older child among all the children that he had. All right. He gave that son for a burnt offering. And when that happened, demons came in. Satan came against the children of Israel. So they had to depart and leave and couldn't win that war anymore. Because why? The children of Israel in the first place were doing the same thing. They were not worshiping the God of the Bible, the God that they were supposed to worship, YHWH, in the proper way. So God could not stand up for them, because a greater sacrifice has been given. So that's what I just wanted to share with you guys on the history of the papal bulls, for you to understand what's going on in your world and have a clear understanding, all right, so far of history and why things are happening the way they are. For more information and to understand the concealed mystery, because all of this is concealed mystery. And like I've said, every video that we make is just 5% of the whole truth. Get our book and get real history and understanding. And we are only responding to people who want the book and want the real history, not people who are fixated on things that don't matter, such as transgenders or mutilated personalities. So let's get into talking about giving you the preview on how to know if someone is the gender they claim or not, so we can get into the transvestigation of all the people that we wanted to end this video. Let's go. If you're first time subscribe on the channel, even though we don't expect that anybody should be a first timer on this particular channel, because it's a different kind of channel, just concentrated and trying to help those who already have the book to have a full understanding of what's going on in the world. But if you're first timer, go get the book, then we can talk. But I just want to show you how to identify people who are not the gender they claim, or how to identify the gender in short. So it's very, very important, if you're a first time subscriber to the channel, that you have to watch this video called the primer video. I should have asked you to do that before you continued watching the video, but if you're already done up to this point, then you can pause the video and go watch the primer video first. It's the most important video that you have to watch on this channel. There's a playlist for it on the channel called Primer, so look for the playlist called Primer. It has about 3 or 4 other videos at this point in time, which include Primer 2, which is very, very important that you watch, a theory of surrogates, and a theory of surrogates 2, because the theory of surrogates shows you how the Vatican tells us such lies as that these transgenders can give birth because they use their siblings to procreate, and then they use plastic surgery to make the siblings even look more like the mutilated personalities which we know can never procreate or give birth. So that's how this works. So watch the primer video first, and then you can come back and continue watching this video. And for with every video that we make, there is a link in the description section which leads you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. We expect that you download this document and that you print it in a hard copy and keep it, all right, especially for you and your family, something to leave onto the next generation. Because as we've told you, we spoke throughout this video that history is being changed every single day, because the great grandsons of Genghis Khan are trying to rule the world as their father in Genghis Khan told them to. And with each and every passing day, our histories change every day. So you have to have things in hard copy. You have to write stuff down yourself as well, so that your history will be intact, so your children and great grandchildren will not be confused about their heritage, about who the identity. So somebody cannot just take up change the identity and tell you this is what they were, and since you're long gone, people get more confused about the identity of who you were before you died. So please write stuff down. It's very, very important. You start writing stuff down, writing your own history, taking pictures. Don't just put them up on the internet, on social media, because all of that can be changed. But have it in a hard copy format and preserve it for your future generations, because with each and every passing day, our histories change. It's the more reason we've put all this information in our book, because you have real history that you can always refer yourself to, and refer your children to as well. So please do that with this particular document as well, called Male versus Female Visual Differences, because this is not taught in schools, because our educational systems are tools of mind control. As I've shown you before, that government, anything that has to do with government, means to steer and control the mind. It has nothing to do with truth. So continuing on, we're looking at trying to identify the genders right here. So we show you what a female looks like and what a male looks like. So there's a female to the left of her screen. She has an arch in her back, and her pelvis is tilted forward. The pelvis of a woman is tilted forward so that a baby can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception that a baby has to go through before he or she is born into this world. And because of this tilted pelvis, a female has an arch in her back. The arch in the back, depending on where you draw it, if you draw it from below the shoulder blades, it's going to form a deep C arch in the back. You draw it from high above the shoulder blades, it's going to form an S-shaped arch in the back. The reason for the arch is so that when a woman gets pregnant, the weight of pregnancy can be distributed across the body, all right, without the woman having any problems, hurting herself while she's walking or while she's working. So that's the reason a woman has an arch in her back. So I want you to remember these two letters for a female's back. It's always going to be shaped like a C, or it's going to be shaped like an S. A woman always has an arch in her back. It does, irrespective of her ethnicity, the texture of her hair, the color of her skin. Every woman has an arch in the back, because without that, a baby cannot stay inside the womb or the pelvic region for the 9 months of conception that a baby goes through. With males, males do not get pregnant. There is no technology that will ever make a man to be pregnant. There is no way that they say they can implant a womb in a man's body that can make a man pregnant, because first of all, the pelvic region of a man is not designed to carry any children. There's nothing that can change that. No amount of surgery can change that. If you want to play with the skeletal structure of anybody, that person is going to end up dead, because once you change the skeletal structure, you change the foundation of which a human being is based on. So nothing can change the skeletal structure. Once it's determined at conception, nothing can change that skeletal structure. That's the reason from dead remains of human beings we can identify the sexes, because nothing can change the skeletal structure. Do not let anybody lie to you that the skeletal structure of someone can be changed. Do not be delusional. There is no such thing as androgyny. Nothing can change the skeletal structure of any person. If your concept, if at conception you were determined to be a boy, you will always remain a boy. If at conception you were determined to be a woman, your skeletal structure will remain the same. So males have a straight back. Males do not have any arch in their back. If the back of a man wants to arch, it's going to arch outwards right here, as you can see here, in the shape of a D or a P, but it's going to be a straight back into the pelvis with no arch. So always want you to remember that. The two letters for a man back is shaped like a D or a P. I scroll forward into the document just to show you that a female's back will always arch much more than that of a man. As you can see right here, here's a woman kneeling down. She has the steep C arch in the back, and the pelvis is still tilted forward. It doesn't matter if the female is big, tall, small, all right, whatever size you want to call it, curvy, fat, big. There's always going to be an arch in a woman's back. You can see right here, there is a big female to the left of her screen. She has an arch in the back and the pelvis is tilted forward. A small female to the left of her screen, arch in the back and the pelvis is tilted forward. Without this pelvic tilt, no woman can get pregnant. That's why every woman has a pelvic tilt. Some can be subtle and some can be very, very pronounced. And that depends on your ethnicity as well, or as we would say, as they've made us to believe now that people are either black or white. It depends on that as well also. So let's get down here and show you that it doesn't matter if the female's got muscles, there's always going to be an arch in the female's back. If she's taking some sort of, supplement to make her have more muscle, she works out in the gym, nothing can change that skeletal structure. There's always going to be an arch in a woman's back, as you can see right here, because nothing can change it. And one thing I have to let you guys know is that you can base the gender of somebody based on the secondary male or female characteristics, such as, that males have maybe a facial hair, they have an Adam's apple, they have a brow ridge, they have brow bossing, they have long arms, a long torso, slanting foreheads, and all that kind of stuff. You can base the gender on the secondary characteristics because gender is determined by the skeletal structure, right? So you always have to remember that, and you also have to remember that we live in a time of plastic surgery, in which a lot of facial features and secondary features can be changed through plastic surgery rather. So if you're basing your gender based on the secondary male and female characteristics, you're going to get it wrong. Because right now, males can have breast implants. They can have, such things as a Brazilian butt lift and body contouring to make them have the female figure, but the skeletal structure can change. Even with the removable ribs, nothing can change the skeletal structure. It's always going to be a straight back for a man. His hips are going to be above his crotch, and nothing can change that. With the female, same as well. Your hips are going to be below the crotch because women are designed for childbirth. So don't base any of your, let's say, gender identification on the secondary male and female characteristics, because that's what the Vatican wants you to focus on. Because once you focus on that, you'll believe the lies that they tell you about these mutilated personalities that they put on TV, that they are actually the gender they claim, and you continue suffering from cognitive dissonance by the great grandsons of Genghis Khan who run this world. So let's move on and show you the most defining feature between males and females, which has to lie in the pelvic region and the hips. Let's do that. So here's a short clip that's going to show you the location of the female hip, and this is how all women are measured into clothes. And without this, all the clothes that are sewn around the world would not fit if females had varying degrees or varying places for the hips. But the location of the female hip is always going to be below the crotch, as you can see right here where the tape goes round. Normally, the widest portion of a female's body will always be the hips, which are below the crotch. Now, there's no such thing as hip to shoulder ratio that can determine if you're female. The location of your hip determines if you're a woman, and it's always going to be below the crotch. So if you have your shoulders that are wider than your hips, that doesn't make you to be male. The location of your hips is what determines if you're male or female. For females, it's below the crotch, and for males, it's above the crotch. So this lady is going to turn around from the back so you can see the location of that hip and her Q angle, which is always going to be slightly above the bum line but below the crotch. The Q angle is an angle between the hip and the knee, and for females is much more acute. It's much more acute because the female pelvic region here is wider than that of a male, so that a baby can come out of the womb. All right, so that's why a female has a much more acute Q angle, which is the joining of the hip to the knee. And so, like I've always said, if you have difficulties trying to ascertain if someone is either male or female, and you have difficulty looking at the person from the front, try to see if you can find a picture of the person from the back, because we all know when you look at someone from the back, you can immediately tell that's either male or female because of how the Q angle looks from the back. It shows very, very much acutely that you're either looking at a female or a male when you look at the Q angle from the back. So from the back, the hips of a female, or the Q angle, starts slightly above the bum line, right? But it's below the crotch. For males, this Q angle will be so far away from the bum line, all right? It will be farther up, and you can tell that that's a man if you are looking at a picture of the person from the back. And let me show you an example of that. The example I'm using here is Iggy Azalea. As you can see right here, here's Iggy Azalea's bum line, but the Q angle is so far away up here. Why? Because Iggy Azalea is a born male and not female. All right. So if this was a woman, so you can see right here, if you put these differences here for you to see the difference. Let me pull this close by side. So here is a female. Her Q angle starts right here, slightly above the bum line, not so far away, because that's where her hip is. But for a man in Iggy, as you can see right here, it's so far away. The Q angle is right up here. The bum line is here. So when you look at the person from the back, you're always going to be able to tell if this person is male or female. So with that, let's get into the transvestigation of the fellows that we're looking at today. Let's go. So we start the transvestigation with Joshua Kushner, the brother of Jared Kushner, who's married to Donald Trump's daughter. Don't quite remember the name of Donald Trump's daughter at this point in time, but you can look up Jared Kushner and you'll know who that is. So here is a picture of Jared Kushner right here walking with Carly Kloss. As you can see, Jared Kushner has Q angle that's below the crotch because Jared Kushner is 100% female. We're going to go through this a little bit fast today. Here's another picture of Jared Kushner. As you can see, Joshua Kushner. As you can see, this Q angle is below the crotch and she's walking in the same way and manner that Carly Kloss, the so-called supermodel and wife that he's supposed to be married to. But you can see that these are both two females working. Let me see if I can blow this picture up as much as I can. Sorry, my mouse is a little bit all over the place. Let me see if I can blow that up again. So you can see right here, this Q angle is below the crotch. Hourglass figure because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. I'm not a man in any way. Here is Joshua Kushner Indian. I don't know what's going on here, but that's fake. But you can see that this is an hourglass figure with very huge, humongous hips like that of a woman because Joshua Kushner is actually one. Another picture of Joshua Kushner right here. You can see walking in a catwalk manner like a woman should because of the wide pelvic region that a female has. The female body needs to balance. That means the body needs to come into the center of the weight of the body. And so the legs need to do two things in moving inwards and forwards at the same time, and that causes a woman to catwalk. So this is what Joshua Kushner is doing because Joshua Kushner is 100% female and Carly Kloss is faking that this is a heterosexual couple, but this is a couple that's serving the Vatican, and this child here is a sacrifice to that. Let's go. Here's another picture of Joshua Kushner. As you can see, there's a woman walking because the cute Q angle is below the crotch, and they can't fool anybody except you because you're not looking into the details. You're just believing that whatever your albino elite masters tell you is true, because so many people believe in this myth of white superiority, that because you're white, or as albino, as I can call it because that's the actual word. If you're white, it means you're saying that you're an albino because the word comes from a Latin word albus, which means a lack of melanin. So white is not a color, is not a reference to any color, because white actually means an absence of all color. That's why you start painting pictures with a white background, because it's an absence of all color. So white is not in the reference to color. It's only showing you that you have a lack of melanin. That is just fact. And the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan have brought all this deception upon the whole world because they are trying to be black. You've heard that all the time. You hear the words that a lot of, white or albinos, as we should say it, copy black people. They steal from black literature, black culture, black traditions, and try to make it theirs. Where do you think it started from? It started from the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan when they got into Europe and tried to be like the black European kings and queens. They took on that copying of black culture to make themselves look like the kings and queens that were before them. That's just truth, and it is fact. So let's keep on moving on so you guys can see some other pictures of Joshua Kushner. You can see this is clear as night and day. We should end this video right here. This should suffice. You can see this is an acute Q angle that's below the crotch because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. 100% female, just like the so-called wife or partner in Carly Kloss. She even has more of an acute, acute hourglass figure or Q angle below the crotch than Carly Kloss. All right, let's go to another picture. Here is him again, or she again, as we'll call it, because actually she clear as night and day, acute Q angle below the crotch because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. Another picture right here. This one is not so huge. Let's see if I can blow this up. Sorry, my mouse is all over the place. Well, you can see right here, this acute Q angle is below the crotch because Joshua Kushner, son of Charles Kushner, is 100% female and not a man. Another picture, and here's the family. All right, you can see how wicked and despicable this, because despicable these people are. This is Charles Kushner, and this is Cyril Kushner. Cyril Kushner, the mother and the father of Jared Kushner and Joshua Kushner. They are worshiping the devil right here. Satanism in plain sight. They've given these children as a sacrifice to a demon. For more of that information, when you get our book, you'll understand all that. They are doing the ancient pagan practices that all the black woolly haired Hebrews and Africans used to do. They've organized it in such a way because they are the great grandsons of Genghis Khan trying to rule the world. This is their lineage right here. The great grandsons of Genghis Khan and his generals. You can see the similarity in the faces. If you take a look at Genghis Khan and the faces of these people, you see that they're the same. They're only looking different. They don't have the Mongoloid features or the Asian features of Genghis Khan because they've bred with the black Europeans that they met and conquered and subjugated to them, has changed those features. But they can still trace their genealogy because they all keep this genealogy at home. The Vatican keeps the genealogy of all its people who are running the world because these are the people that power is handed to. And they're sacrificing their children, as the black woolly haired kings of Europe used to do, to their deities so that they can keep power. All right. For more of all that, get our book. All right. Here is another picture of Joshua Kushner right here. As you can see, this is an hourglass figure with huge, humongous hips below the crotch because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. Another picture of Joshua Kushner walking here. You can see walks like a female in that catwalk manner, the same way with Kali Kloss, because they are both females. Joshua Kushner, 100% female. Here's another picture of Joshua Kushner again. Acute Q angle is below the crotch because Joshua Kushner is 100% female like Kali Kloss. Two lesbians here pretending that they are a heterosexual couple. All right, let's go another picture. Clear as night and day. Acute Q angle hips below the crotch because they are both females, and this is not a man in Joshua Kushner. Another picture of Joshua Kushner here. We just wanted to show you this hourglass figure because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. Another picture of Joshua Kushner here, acute Q angle below the crotch because Joshua Kushner is 100% female. Same with Kali Kloss. Okay, that's the end of the picture for Joshua Kushner. So let's move on to Ivan Spiegel, one of the co-founders of the company called Snapchat, which a lot of people use. So here is Ivan Spiegel, the co-founder or founder of Snapchat. Because he's just the face of Snapchat, as we've told you before. It's Thematic and doing all this. It's got nothing to do with Ivan Spiegel before. It's got nothing to do with Ivan Spiegel, rather, like I was saying. As you can see right here, he's just the face of Snapchat. He's not the owner. He doesn't even know what it's about. Probably he can tell you a good story, but he doesn't know the finer details because he's just the face of the Vatican, the face of the great grandsons of Genghis Khan. They've put on there to keep on deceiving the world and making people to buy into their fake new world order, which is just the devil using them to make the whole world under his control, so that when Yehoshua comes back, he can have an army that goes against him. Get our book and get all that fine information and details. So here is it, as you can see right here, with Ivan Spiegel, he's spreading from underneath the elbows like a female would, and you can see how wide the hips are, and you can see how the thigh exposure goes and the mannerism in which he sits, because Ivan Spiegel right here is 100% female and not a man in any way. Married to Miranda Kerr. And it's funny how they make this, all of them, this mutilated people like Beyonce, and people like, what's it called, Serena Williams, get married quick. Why? Because, for example, Serena Williams, the reason why she wasn't married, or he wasn't married quick rather, was because one, he was always on tour, all right? So always busy playing tennis. So there is no time to have a relationship. So as Serena starts getting older, all right, people are going to start seeing that something is very off. So they have to find a way to make sure that when he retires from tennis, okay, that people are not going to be looking so much deeply into him anymore. So they make sure that they tie him up with another fake man in Alexis Ohanian, because Alexis Ohanian is actually a girl. So that's just how they tie all this, mutilated people up. So you guys don't look so much into them and you say, oh, they're married, they're off the chats, there's no need looking for them. But that's all fake, because they're not the gender they claim. Let's go. Here is Ivan Spiegel with Miranda Kerr. As you can see right there, there's an arch in the back, clear as night and day, with a pelvis just tilted forward. The same pelvic tilt that Miranda Kerr has here is the same pelvic tilt, long pelvic tilt. Sorry to say that Ivan Spiegel has, because they are both female. You can see that pelvic tilt forward, so a baby can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception, and an arch in the back to make sure that the weight of pregnancy can be distributed across the body, so that she doesn't have any problems walking and hurting herself or the baby. That's what Ivan Spiegel has here, because Ivan Spiegel, the co-founder or the founder of Snapchat, is 100% female, not a man in any way. Another picture of Ivan Spiegel. Here's Ivan Spiegel with, I think, Bobby Murphy, one of the co-founders of Snapchat. We haven't looked into him yet because the Vatican is hiding this one. We don't know why they are hiding him. We are not saying, so for anybody who's watching this video, we are not saying that Bobby Murphy right here is a transgender. We don't know what he is. We haven't looked into him, but we can tell for sure that he or she, if whatever the case he is, that he is the handler of Ivan Spiegel right here. So the Vatican hides him, so you guys don't look so much into him, because they want you to see this as the face of Snapchat. They hide this one and use this one to control this one. We are not saying that Bobby Murphy is a transgender or a mutilated person. We're just telling you we don't know. So please remember that. We are not saying Bobby Murphy right here is a mutilated person or a transgender, but that Ivan Spiegel is. Let's go another picture. Here is Ivan Spiegel again with Miranda Kerr. As you can see, the pelvis is still tilted forward. There is an arch in the back and the long butt of a female all the way down. Because why? Ivan Spiegel is 100% female. You see the pelvic tilt right here in front and is in the back, because these are two women. And Miranda Kerr is supposedly pregnant. So who do you think? Where's that baby coming from? Probably this person has a sibling somewhere that they use to impregnate Miranda Kerr, or it could just be anybody who looks close. It could be the father or mother of, or the father of Ivan Spiegel here, who's gonna get this lady pregnant. This is how crazy things go on in the Vatican. Fathers and mothers sleeping with daughters and sons. It's harrowing. But that's what it is. Let's go. And don't let anybody lie to you about such things as in vitro fertilization, and that sperms can be stored or eggs can be stored, DNA and all that stuff. It's all nonsense. The only way it can happen that somebody gets pregnant is that a male sperm gets into a female ovum and fertilizes the egg. It can be done through the natural act of procreation, or it can be done through artificial insemination, as they call it, in vitro fertilization. Let's go. Another picture of this deceivers right here. And here is Ivan Spiegel with Miranda Kerr. You can see there's an arch in the back. You can see the high set navel point, and you can see the pelvis that's tilted forward, because Ivan Spiegel is 100% female. Arch in the back, high set navel point. You can see the chest muscles, the curves of the pecs as we call it, because females don't naturally have pec muscles, because the pec muscles are not designed as a man. The chest of a female is meant to carry a mammary glands and breast tissue for milk for a baby. So a female won't have a very developed chest muscle like that of a man. This is what Ivan Spiegel is showing right here, because Ivan Spiegel is 100% female and not male in any way. Let's go to another picture of Ivan Spiegel. As you can see right here, the acute Q angle is below the crotch and walking like a woman, because Ivan Spiegel is 100% female. Another picture right here, we already showed you that one arch in the back here of Ivan Spiegel. And here is still the same picture. You can see the hourglass figure right here very clearly. You can see how the proportions of the arms fits that of a female, even though that she's been given a lot of testosterone to try to look male. But you can see that this is an hourglass figure. As you can see right here, that he starts getting wider, spreads wider like a female does from underneath the elbows where the female waist is, and goes all the way down into an hourglass figure, because Ivan Spiegel is 100% female. Here is Ivan Spiegel again. You can still see this pelvic tilt forward and these huge hips, and the arch in the back, because Ivan Spiegel is 100% female, just like the wife Miranda Kerr. I think that's the last picture on Ivan Spiegel. So let's go over to Derek Blasberg. So here's Derek Blasberg, and what do you notice? Derek Blasberg has an acute Q angle, an hourglass figure, acute Q angle below the crotch, because Derek Blasberg is 100% female. The presenter of CNN Style that you guys watch a lot, which the Vatican, the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan, are using to control your mind into the New World Order. Style that they've been copying from black people for over 5 centuries now. Or let's say from the time of the 1300s or 1200s, the time of Genghis Khan themselves. So they've made us to believe that everything white or albino is good and everything black is evil. But the technology, the ideas, the cultures, the traditions, they all get from the black woolly head people, which they make subservient to them. It's a ridiculous society. I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of it. There's no way. There's no words I can put into it. Let's go to some other pictures of Derek Blasberg. As you can see right here, acute Q angle below the crotch. We should end the video here. This should suffice. You can see how the arms follow the contours of the body, because a woman's arms are always going to be shaped in an hourglass figure, just like a figure. It's not going to be straight like that of a man's arms. And this is what Derek Blasberg exhibits, because Derek Blasberg is 100% female, lying to you, walking like a female, as you can see right here. Acute Q angle below the crotch with the lady that she's walking with, because this is a woman and not a man in any way. Let's go to another picture of Derek Blasberg. Right here, you can see the pelvic tilt right there, because Derek Blasberg is 100% female and standing like one, because she is one. Derek Blasberg, not a man in any way. Let's go to another picture of Derek Blasberg. You can see that Derek Blasberg is trying to find the male waist, but he can't, but puts her hand rather on the pelvic region of a female, because that's where the pelvis is. Sorry to say, and she is curving like a female, because she is one, with a longer midsection in the terms that the hips and the pelvic region take half the torso of the female body. This is what this so-called man in Derek Blasberg is exhibiting, because Derek Blasberg is 100% female and not a man. Curves like one. All right, let's go. Another picture of Derek Blasberg working right there, and you can still see it's walking like a female in a catwalk manner, because Derek Blasberg is 100% female with an acute Q angle below the crotch. I think that's the last picture that we have on this particular video today. I hope you learned something, and that what the great-grandsons of Genghis Khan are doing to the whole entire world, and copying black people all around the world, killing, mutilating, just to keep a population that supports and keeps them in power. That's the reason for all of this, because like we explained before, even though albinos, or white people as they call it, came all the way from Asia, they are not the majority population of the world. And albinism cannot be responsible for all the black people that disappeared in Asia. The reason for the disappearance of black people in Asia all the way into Europe and part of North Africa is because wherever Genghis Khan went, he killed all of them. And that's what happened. So know the truth, know the concealed mystery, get our book. All the information is on the screen. And you can also order the book in the about section of the video channel, about section of the channel rather. And with that, I'll leave you with these words: look with your eyes, but see with your brains. And I'll talk with you guys later. Thanks. Bye bye.